Call the meeting to order. Call the roll.
Trustee Healy.
Here.
Trustee Katsinas.
Here.
Trustee Malani. Trustee Compass.
Here.
Trustee Reardon.
Here.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Here.
Mayor Pico.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the March 18th, 2024 regular meeting minutes.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Katsinas.
I move to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustee meeting of March 18th, 2024.
Second. Call the roll.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Any non-scheduled citizens and visitors for agenda-specific public comment? Accounts payable March 19th, 2024 through April 1st, 2024 approval.
Mr. Mayor. Trustee Healy.
I move to approve the accounts payable March 19th, 2024 through April 1st, 2024 in the amount of $2,250,642.21.
Second. Call the roll.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Consent agenda.
Consent agenda, item A, payroll for March 15, 2024. Approval, item B, approval of the January 15, 2024 and February 19, 2024 executive session minutes. Item C, Police Department Fire and Range and EOC Facility Project RFP 24-011. Item D, special event permit for art company greater than 300 people. Item E, special event permit for Chick-fil-A greater than 100 people. Item F, special event permit for Circuit Family Law Group greater than 250 people. Item G, special event permit for Circuit Theatrical Circus, greater than 300 people per show. Item H, commuter parking payment app service agreement. Item I, Jane Caliendo Memorial Foundation 5K. Item J, grant agreement OS-24-2557 between the state of Illinois and the Village of Orland Park. Item K, cancellation of the Orland Park Roof Fest. Item L, Taste of Orland Park tents, tables, and other rental equipment, RFP 24-005. Item M, Centennial Park and Ball Field concessions, RFP 24-007. Item N, an ordinance amending appendices A and B to ordinance number 5865, Second Amendment ordinance. Item O, main pump station roof recoating, RFP 24-031.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Thomas.
I move to approve items A through O of the consent agenda.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Athletics Operations Maintenance Facility Project Construction Administration.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Reardon.
I move to approve the proposal from DLA Architects Limited for construction administration services for the Athletics Operation Maintenance Facility Project for a cost not to exceed $40,000 and authorize the village manager to execute all related contracts subject to village attorney.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Purchase of washing machines at Civic Center and Public Works.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Radiszewski.
I move to approve quotes 3123 and 3124 from Genuine Parts Company, Napa Integrated Business Solutions for the purchase of 3 new washing machines for an amount not to exceed $42,586.95.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Fire hydrant flushing and valve exercising to access water.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Thomas.
I move to approve awarding RFP 24-039 Water System Asset Management Program to NE Simpson Co.
Inc. of Valparaiso, Indiana, for a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options to extend for an amount not to exceed $100,000 in fiscal year 2024, and the board approved budgeted amounts for fiscal year 2025 and fiscal year 2026, and authorized the village manager to execute all related contracts subject to village attorney review.
Second.
Call roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pete.
Aye.
2024 Concrete Flatwork and Sidewalk Replacement Program.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Katsinas.
I move to approve awarding RFP 24/026 Concrete Flatwork and Sidewalk Replacement Program to Globe Construction, Inc. of Addison, Illinois, for amount not to exceed $1.5 million, and authorize the village manager to execute all related contracts subject to village attorney review.
Second.
Call roll.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
I abstain. I have a family relationship with a non-awarded bidder.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Mayor Pete.
Aye.
Downtown Orland Park Project update.
As they load the presentation, I just want to give some context to this. In the almost 7 years I've been mayor, I've witnessed a lot of policy making from District 135 that I personally don't think is in the best interest of the residents, particularly the children of Orland Park. There's one D135 board member that's been part of that board the entire 7 years. And the superintendent's been involved with the district as well that whole time. But specifically, among some other things, they tried to cancel Christmas. They tried to eliminate band programs. They tried to eliminate honors programs. They sent an email to parents blaming our police department and police chief for an issue that they caused with the resident that our chief was actually trying to resolve. As we all know, they stayed closed for COVID far too long in spite of very clear information about the damage it was doing to our kids. And they instituted standards-based grading. Fortunately, the new board, thankfully, when they got in, they actually have reversed that, is my understanding. So that's good. And the reason we're here tonight is because now District 135 is threatening to sue the village. And because it's litigation, we could talk about this in executive session. But 7 years ago, when I became mayor, one of the things I learned when I had a board that was so opposed is the fastest way to stop behavior that was political and not in the interest of residents was to make the discussion public, make people have the discussion publicly. It's amazing how board members' votes and behavior change when the discussion's out in the open. Sunlight, after all, is the best disinfectant. A really good example of that from my first 2 years was the mayor's golf outing that they tried to kill. And when I put it on the board floor, it was for veterans, amazingly vote 7-0. They tried to do the same thing with veterans programs and the same thing happened. And basically they realized the same thing would happen, so they stopped those efforts. So that's why I decided that we would discuss this in public. That way the public can hear the facts. And here's exactly where we stand on the issue. District 135 in particular and District 230 should do the same. No more executive session secrecy on this. Have the discussion out in the open. And with that, George, I'll turn it over to you to give kind of an update.
Mayor, Village Board, as you recall, late in 2023, the village authorized the execution of a term sheet with Edwards Realty for downtown Orland Park redevelopment. An important part of that is the TIF district. And so I'm just going to go through a little bit of history here on the existing TIF and the proposed TIF as well. So the Triangle TIF, Main Street Triangle TIF is the formal name, and that's kind of important because we're also going to talk about the downtown Orland Park TIF, which is the proposed TIF for the redevelopment. So the Main Street Triangle TIF was created in 2004. For the new development to happen, either the Main Street Triangle TIF needs to be amended since it expires in 2027, or a new TIF needs to be created. The existing Main Street Triangle TIF currently has a deficit of $27.5 million. What that means is, as part of the developments that did occur in the Main Street Triangle, the village general fund lends money to the triangle fund, so the TIF triangle fund. And there's just, we know by the time it expires that the Main Street Triangle TIF fund will not be able to pay back $27.5 million. So at some point, that will have to be written off. So the triangle was created in 2004. In 2013, the village borrowed $64 million to fund the construction of the 9750 project. In 16, University of Chicago opens. In 2018, the village began negotiations with the structured development to complete the remaining 9 acres, but eventually no plans were delivered. And as I mentioned, late last year, the village authorized execution of a redevelopment agreement with Edwards Realty, so that they would redevelop the remaining 9.15 acres. And that step included the execution of a term sheet. And right now, what staff is doing is, since that time, we've been working with Edwards Realty on their plans. At the same time, we've been working with them on their RDA, the redevelopment agreement, which takes the terms of the term sheet and it makes it into a much more robust agreement for the redevelopment.
And George, when you're on this page here, I just have a couple of comments to make as well, just for the overall. Having been here the longest and dealt with this since 2017, is that there were only 3 board members that were here that entire time from 2004 to 2016 when all these decisions were made. That was Trustees Fenton and Dodge and Mayor Blau. Okay, so they were the only ones here for that entire time. Nobody from the current board, including myself, was part of this. And all that money that was borrowed, the 9750 debt, the original TIF, the debt, or the money that was put into the TIF from the general fund, that 96 million, that's money that could have been used for all the roads and parks. Think about that, the $96 million. What was our unfunded capital? It's like 105. That pretty much does it right there. That doesn't even include the property tax rebates we're getting, which is that's another 50-some million. I mean, we have all the money in the world to do all these projects with, pay as you go, which is the ultimate goal. And so there was a lot of mistakes made that really hurt the village in this. And before we leave this page, does anybody have any questions on this particular?
Just to be, Mr. Mayor, just to be clear, there's never been a surplus at all, correct?
No, there's never been a surplus.
And even if there's money coming in, there are so many expenses still associated with this that we're not even close to a surplus. It's not like we're dealing with some money there that we're holding and using for something else. There's never been a surplus, and the costs are far outweighing so far what's happened.
Yeah, right. That's correct, because the $27.5 million, it's written off. We are getting some revenue from the University of Chicago building, the lease that they pay directly to the village, but that's going towards existing bond payments.
Right.
And as the board may recall, about 2 years ago, we restructured those bonds, extending them out a time period so that we can actually use existing resources to pay that out.
So on that note, Kevin, what approximately when the TIF ends, I know you don't have the exact number, but approximately what will be the deficit of the TIF fund when the TIF expires?
Well, at least 23 million or so in deficit position.
Because it can go for only a certain amount of years, right?
It goes until 2027, correct?
2027.
Correct.
So at that point, we'll be $23 million in the hole. There's not some golden pot of money. We're gonna actually have to pay that back. We are taxpayers.
No matter what we do with the project, wherever it happens between now and the end of the potential construction and development, that money's still sitting there. It doesn't get washed out. You say write it off. I don't like that term, right?
And it sucks for all of us because we're the ones that have to, figure out a way to pay back the money for the really crappy decisions that were made well before us.
And the reason I say write off is because it was already spent.
Right.
It was spent out of the general fund. For accounting purposes, if you look at the TIP annual report, the TIP annual report does say that it owes the general fund this amount of money. But once the TIP expires, well, then we're never gonna be able to recover that money.
And just the public may think of write-off and think of that there's some offsetting, there's some tax way that we can, recoup that with some other loss. We're not public business, we're not private business, right? We're gonna have some.
We're gonna pay it back.
Exactly, we're gonna owe it, we have to pay it, no matter where it comes from, we're responsible for it.
And just to be clear, Kevin and George, so people understand that 27.5 million is what's on the books as a deficit. There's other deficits as well. There's like, for example, we're going to have to pay to move utilities that were improperly placed. There's an agreement for the Metro lot to repay. There's some other millions and millions of dollars of funds that we're committed to as well from these board decisions. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there's a number of conceptual plans being proposed for the remaining 9.15 acres. One of those would require relocating existing utilities, and if that happens, it's really a $3 million price tag. And the village does have an existing IGA with Metro, whereby we once, as the board knows, on the east side of the tracks, there's Metro parking. And once that goes away because of this redevelopment, Metro, as part of our agreement, said that we have to build that equivalent number on the west side of the tracks. Now, fortunately, or unfortunately, because of the pandemic, ridership patterns have changed. They are going to be much more flexible with us as far as having to build those parking spaces on the other side of the tracks. So that's a deferred cost for now, but if it ever gets to the point where Metro ridership really goes up at that lot, then we will have to, that's another $3 million we have to put into that parking lot.
Any other questions on this slide?
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Thomas.
So we mentioned University of Chicago. Can someone tell us more about what the impact of putting a large not-for-profit is into the district?
Sure. So, Vince helped us create a really good video kind of explaining, how a TIF works. And the name is a little bit misleading, right? Tax increment financing really doesn't explain what that means. But for all intents and purposes, what happens is a baseline is established when the TIF is established. TIFs typically last 23 years. That's the standard TIF. They could be less, they could be more, but they need the General Assembly's approval. So they last 23 years. A baseline property tax level is set based on what's there at that time. For the TIF, and then as development happens in that, the property tax increment increases. And when that happens, the difference between the base and the increase is what goes back into that TIF district. So a property that is a not-for-profit doesn't pay property tax. So it does not assist the TIF district at all. Now, in this situation, there is with University of Chicago, there was an agreement that was established whereby they are paying the village a lease, and at the expiration of the lease, and I don't remember when that happens, they will own the property outright. Right now, they don't own the land underneath.
It was a 25-year lease, and it was, I think, a lease between $700,000 and $750,000. It varies. Which, if you look at what a building of that size, we've looked at it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a building of that size, I believe, it would generate taxes of about $1.6 million. So everyone in the village, every taxing body is getting hurt by that decision. Now, University of Chicago is going to come here somewhere, which is okay. It's a not-for-profit. We have other not-for-profits that don't pay taxes. But we incentivize them to go into a TIF district and gave them a sweetheart deal on the lease, which basically stuck it to all of the taxing bodies. And that was not, when I say we, it was not we. It was the board that was here in 2016 when that was approved. So, that's what happened. So you guys, everyone's heard me say that putting a not-for-profit in a TIF is just an absolute, it's just very dumb, because you don't get advantage, because they pay no property tax, you get no advantage.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, because of that, when we did the term sheet with Edwards Realty, a term is that none of the properties could be not-for-profit during the term of the term sheet, which is, during the term of the TIF district. The RDA will also have, the redevelopment agreement will indicate that a not-for-profit property cannot be added to that. Because when you're creating this TIF, and we haven't created it yet because we want to take advantage of the full 23 years of it. When you're creating the TIF, there's a lot of assumptions that go into it, based on what kind of development is going to happen. And then based on that is what we can then borrow for against the increment. That's how we're going to pay it back. If at some point we do that and then it's just filled with not-for-profits, well, that just blows up that business model. All right, go to the next slide. So it even started when we were working with structured development. In 2021, we started discussions with the school districts and the other taxing bodies as well on an IGA that would create a new TIF and reduce the boundaries of the old TIF. So our first attempt at discussions actually had us amending the existing Main Street Triangle TIF to extend the timeline. You can go to the General Assembly and you can ask to extend the timeline. And a lot of times that does occur. The feedback we received during our discussions at that time was the school districts didn't want to extend the timeline. So we came back with another proposal. We said we would amend down the Main Street Triangle TIF and take out 9750. 9750 is the, as everybody knows, is the apartment building over there. They are the only real property tax generator. So any increment that's being created currently in the Main Street Triangle TIF is because of the 9750 parcel. So as part of this program, as part of our proposal, we said we would amend down the Main Street Triangle TIF. By doing that, the school districts would receive increment. They would receive increment much sooner than they would have otherwise. Between the two school districts, that equals $4.3 million.
I think the 4.3 was all the taxing bodies.
It was just the two school districts.
Oh, just the two school districts?
Yeah, it was an overall of $6 million something.
Okay.
We're one of the taxing bodies that would benefit from that as well. The fire district, Moraine, all of them. So the 4.3 was specifically just for those two school districts. So that and the board authorized staff to make that offer, and that offer was on the table for a very, very long time. So as part of our initial discussions, a couple things that we had proposed to was the redevelopment of the Orland Junior High Point fields. Currently, the village maintains those fields, but on a 5-year agreement. We asked for a long-term agreement. If we're going to do a $3.1 million capital upgrade, we wanted to have an agreement that would allow us to use it for at least 20 years. The other thing, I talked about the 9750. The other thing that we're looking to do for the school districts is part of an agreement that we were negotiating with the Forest Preserve District. We are looking to acquire some right-of-way from the Forest Preserve District. The Forest Preserve District is not someone that gives away right-of-way very easily, as we know. This is taking a very, very long time. And this is part of the greater 143rd Street widening. If we're successful here, this will provide Park School with a loop for their school buses at the light on 143rd. And I think we're almost there. The agreement also said that we would agree to the student reimbursement formulas that the Illinois TIF law requires. And, and I mentioned the D-135 to extend the existing IGA. So we kind of packaged all that into an IGA, and so in addition, at the same time, we offered to transfer the cultural center to District 135 for $1. But they did the same analysis that we did, and they found that it was cost prohibitive for them, so they didn't take our offer, which is we're going to be demolishing that building here very shortly. So we made a number of attempts on this IGA. Like I said, it had a direct benefit of $4.3 million at the time we had initially made that offer to the school districts. By removing 9750 from the Main Street Triangle, to all that income would flow into the school districts. So the offer was made, and
What did we ask for in return? I know it's up here, but.
So we asked for a long-term agreement for the fields. We asked them not to object to the TIF districts that are being proposed, and
That was well legit, right?
that was it, because the right-of-way,
We're giving them to them, yeah.
right,
Okay. And George, as I recall, so, and I know that, so obviously, because I'm the one that sent the letter, so 2020, or the email, 2021 is when this was offered. And they indicated they didn't want to do the cultural center. Which, I mean, that's the school board's decision to make. And it looked like, based on, they're spending $17 million on school additions, it looks like it's costing the taxpayer $11 million more than it would have to fix the cultural center. Now, I don't know all the details because they never really discussed this publicly, in my knowledge. So nobody knows why they made that decision. It may have been the right decision, but we don't know because they did it secret, which is not a good practice, and it's not good for the residents. Whether it was a positive or negative decision, we can't even come to that conclusion because we don't know. They didn't have a discussion like this. But when they told us they didn't want it, we took it out of the offer. We said, okay, that's fine, we'll take it out. And we left everything else in there, correct?
correct.
And that was in 2021 at some point, because they came to that conclusion relatively quickly. At the end of 2022, in December, to be specific, I sent an email out saying that basically what had happened in 2021 and 2022 with our advances in the TIF is that we saw the economics of the TIF had changed. And so we actually, the money from 9750, we needed to help pay off the debt and everything else. However, we left this offer on the table and told the school boards, and actually the board voted on this in December as well, and said, we will leave this on the table to the end of the year because in good faith, we've offered it to you for this long, so we'll let you, but understand that it comes off the table at the end of the year because circumstances have changed. And then I had discussion with at least one board member of 230 who said, hey, we don't meet until the end of January. And I said, well, we'll give it to February. So we extended that to February. And both school districts declined. So that 4.3 million to the, this says tax advisors, but that was actually to the school districts, which I think, because I've seen the next slide, but I think the number is even higher. But essentially that was over $2 million, probably 2.4, 2.5, school district 135, but they said no.
Yeah.
We didn't have to offer it to them.
Correct.
And the required to.
The board was very generous in the sake, for the sake of, cooperation and trying to come to a win-win solution. That's what that was about. I mean, you are correct. From 2021 to 2022, the economy's changed, right? The inflation went up, the cost of goods went up, and
Bond prices went, not, we saw bond prices
inflation rates went up, and we realized that, and I mentioned that earlier, we need the full 23 years of the TIF, of the new TIF, to make it actually happen. So we're right there, and there's really little leeway in that. So that money is going to assist us, now that the school districts have turned it down.
And by keeping 9750 in, the deficit will be 23 million instead of 27.5.
Yeah.
Essentially. Because if we took it out, the deficit would be 27.5, right? Maybe 27.25. It would still be very high. Next slide.
So, I mentioned a little bit of this, there was, between the fields, the proposed fields improvements was 3.1 million. The park school right away and engineering, and that's an important element as well, that's already been engineered for that access off 143rd. And then the tip change, showed a benefit of about 5.2 as an example, directly to District 1.
And actually, what you said on the last slide, that was 4.3 to just the school district, so it's more like 6 million, because the tip changes should be higher than $2.5.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee
can we
Reed.
go back a second? What was their reasoning for rejecting this? If they had one, and it makes me like I'm a 8th grader at Century.
They didn't give us one.
Yeah, there's no reason whatsoever.
They just mentioned.
We never even got a formal no.
I mean, do they, in informal discussions, do they think that we're hiding information or hiding money somewhere, or that the revenue that we're accounting for really is much greater? Or are they, what I'm trying to figure out, are they banking on the fact that if we do get this done, there will be money there in these very short time frame, and they want that because they think they're entitled to it?
You know what,
I was rambling, I know, but I'm at a loss.
when we started discussions, I think what really and I can't read people's
No, I
minds.
understand, but you're understanding it.
Yeah, they didn't want to extend the TIF district, because they just felt like the 23 years is enough, and we should take the, windfall now, and then that's it. But
Do they not realize that we need that money to make it happen at all? I mean, if we don't have that, they get this windfall, there's no windfall because there's no development.
correct.
Then we have all these things that we can use the money for to pay off costs according to the law. The law allows us to pay these other things off first. And we could do that. Or we could help them, give them some money, extend it out, and maybe help the whole project. Am I misunderstanding?
So I was in some of those discussions, had some of those discussions, and they mentioned they don't want a 43-year TIF, and I'm like, because they want to get the tax money, but we own all the property. I don't think they understand. We own all the remaining property, so there is no tax money to have. And it will, I think that's part of the reason for doing the TIF is without the TIF, it's going to stay village-owned, empty property.
And it's since 2004. Look how hard it's been to do this.
Correct.
It's been happening for
And
very,
we have a
very.
development on the table that would build something that, yes, it'll be a while before they get the money. Maybe it'll be a windfall, if there was for the Orland Park Place. But at the end of the day, if that doesn't happen, it's going to be vacant property and they're going to get nothing.
I mean, Edwards is doing everything they can. Believe me, they have every incentive to it. And look at some of the difficulties they're having in getting it going. So.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. The criteria for a TIF, there's a criteria, it's the but for, right? But for this TIF, this development is not.
Blanket area.
Right.
Difficulty in economic circumstances.
Well, without our assistance, it won't happen.
Right.
That's the clause.
And as the mayor said, and it's similar to what the situation with University of Chicago, as a municipality, we own all of that land. There is no tax revenue coming in from the 9.15 acres. It's not, because we are a non-taxpayer. So if we don't do a project, it just remains vacant. So I think that was the concern. From what we heard is they don't want that TIF district to go on in perpetuity. But it's kind of the rising tide philosophy, because if we don't do this TIF, then this land becomes even more blighted, right?
I understand, I know the answer to this question, but they ever asked us for information that we have not provided to them?
No, I think we've been very forthright with all of the information that we have. One of the requirements as part of the TIF is an annual joint review board meeting. It's called joint review because all of the.
They can send a representative to it.
Correct, all the taxing bodies.
They do.
Yeah, can participate in it. The big taxi bodies, they do. The smaller ones, they don't participate, right? But they do, and we do an audited annual report, the audit. So that 27 million isn't just a number that we came up with, it's an actual audited number, so that, and they get that information.
And I guess one other thing that I'll throw in there is that there was talking about the fields because of the length of the IGA. And, you know, my point to the board members that brought this up, the school board members brought this up, is we've had an IGA, this IGA, for 40 years, except for a couple of years when the boards were fighting. Well, if the village residents are going to pay for these fields at $3.1 million, they don't want the rug pulled out from underneath them and suddenly not have a field usage agreement. So a 5-year agreement is not enough. We need to have an agreement that's long enough that makes it worth our while. We think 25 years is more than fair. If you did a capital project, you expect the capital project to last 20 to 30 years. So, and it's the same agreement we already have, which is we schedule it, they get priority on it, and we clean it. We keep it clean, we fertilize it, we mow it, we do all that stuff. It's the same agreement, basically, that we already have.
So those got the opportunity to go first, right? They scheduled.
Oh, yeah, they get priority. So it's the same agreement we've had basically for 4 years. And the other thing you see here in this picture, you see the different color green for the softball field and the soccer field. One of the things that District 135 is doing is they're going to interscholastic soccer, as you may or may not know. And they need a soccer field there. So taking those fields and turning them into a soccer and softball field, and if they so chose, we told them, if you want to make this a turf field for those 2 fields, all you have to do is cover the difference between what it would cost us to do it and turf, which is about $1 million, I believe is about the cost. So they could, if they so chose. If they don't, we'll leave the rest. But that was the design that we came up with, which fills their needs and also makes those 4 fields that really are unusable into some usable actual fields with fences and all that we can that we can use for softball and also another soccer field as well. And you also see batting cages up there. So that, to me, that was the biggest no-brainer of all of this, and they were pushing back on it. I mean, why would you not take $3.1 million of improvements to your property? That doesn't make sense to me.
And continue maintenance for 25 years.
Right. And we're showing that they may have saved $11 million by going to the cultural center instead of the 5 additions. We just don't know the answer. We don't know why they made the decision because it really wasn't discussed publicly that I'm aware of why they made it. But they added the 5 schools when they got declining enrollment. So it makes you wonder. Are there any other questions on this one?
Next slide. More recently, we held a joint review board meeting on November 7th, 2023. And what we did at that meeting is we did the regular state required joint review board where we talked about the revenues and expenses and all that. And then we also had Edwards there, and they did a presentation on their development. We had our attorneys there, our bond counsel. We had a lot of the folks there so we can have a discussion about what is actually being proposed at the new downtown Orland Park TIF district. Another thing that we had discussed at that time was a new impact fee ordinance. The village has an impact fee ordinance that's a little bit dated. We've been working with our outside attorney from Ice Miller. We've come up with a new impact fee ordinance. And as the board is aware, the impact fees are collected. The village is a conduit for other taxing bodies. We collect the impact fee and it goes on to the other taxing bodies. So we have a new impact fee ordinance and we proposed, we got some feedback and we're always willing to continue to work on it. One of the things that we're going to require though for this new impact fee ordinance is an IGA, a governmental agreement. Because we're a conduit, we don't want to, there is a hold harmless that they have to do on our behalf. If the school districts get sued because of the impact fees, they have to hold harmlesses. We're proposing a new fire district impact fee ordinance, same thing. An IGA needs to be put into place. So the Development Services Department continues to work on that. Hopefully we can get to a point where the largest taxing bodies, the school districts, see some benefit and are willing to sign on to the IGA.
And George, we collect that fee and then pass that fee on to the schools because they cannot collect it. Only we can collect it. Is that correct?
You know what, downstate, it's actually the schools that actually collect them in more rural areas. It makes the most sense for the municipality to collect them at the time of building permits, but it's not unheard of in Illinois for school districts to be able to.
So we don't have to do this on their behalf.
We don't have to do it on their behalf. Correct. And we don't charge them administrative fee or anything like that. We also talked about our ongoing efforts to get the secondary access driveway. We highlighted again that the willingness to improve High Point and OJ Fields. And we also talked about our commitment, our ongoing commitment to follow Illinois TIF law as it relates to student reimbursements. The TIF law requires TIF districts to make per student reimbursements to school districts, but it depends on if the TIF is actually increasing student population. So when the TIF district was actually created, or at least since 2007, the school enrollments have gone down. So that's a problematic area for the school districts because the TIF 9750 has not increased school enrollment. Overall enrollment has decreased. But we've always articulated that we are always going to maintain whatever the requirements tell us to do, state laws, we're going to do it.
And we would expect, based on the demographic stuff that we saw, we're not seeing a 10% increase in enrollment, but we are seeing projected 135, 230 are projecting to see an increase in enrollment.
Yep.
So the new TIF, we would expect that there would be dollars if there were residential. However, this particular project, as we know, we approved we said no residential, that's part of the agreement, so there won't be any residential. There could be though in other TIFs that we're asking them to agree to.
That's right, and it's kind of, that's the benefit. If we create new TIFs going forward and those TIFs have residential components, the school populations have gone down so much that the chance of them going up is pretty good. And so then they get a portion of the increment that actually comes in. And that's law.
And we factor that into our TIF. Like, for example, we have one that's residential at the Andrew property. They're factoring that in, that the number of expected students will actually not contribute to the infrastructure. It will actually be given to the schools as dollars.
So that's part of the overall analysis and how much increment can be generated, that has to be factored in. So all we were asking for is a 25-year field usage agreement, agreed to the changes in the TIF boundaries. Now, not so much agree, but agree not to challenge them, because the districts really have limited ability to block new TIF districts.
They can just delay it, correct?
They could, they could delay it to, they file lawsuits or something.
That has impact on the ability of the developer, timing is everything in some of these things. So they can hamstring us if they try to delay these things and whatever, file lawsuits, get publicity about it, and then we're trying to get, businesses and restaurants in there.
It's essentially what you saw Arlington has to do with Bear Stadium, what those school districts did there, which now they're gonna have nothing, they're gonna have 330 acres of nothing, right? And that's what would happen here, is that you potentially run the risk of you just have empty land that sits there long.
Nothing from nothing is nothing.
And, oh, by the way, if someone does develop and it's not a TIF, there is no TIF reimbursement.
Yep.
It's just whatever,
That's
whatever the property tax.
a good point, because if, let's say that Edwards project falls apart and the village says, well, we tried everything and we're just gonna sell them off piecemeal at this point. It's just a regular development. There are no additional benefits to any of the taxing bodies at that point.
Is that ever mentioned by them, saying that they think that's better somehow for them? I mean, has that been a defense to the district, thinking that somehow that's
I
what
think it's
they're?
downside, I think it's downside risk.
Absolutely.
Actually, but, you know. So, you wanna look to the next one, I know that's what we told them.
Okay, so unfortunately, on February 20th, we received a threat of litigation. It was sent from their attorney to our KTJ, our attorney from KTJ, but KTJ is not the attorney on this because of conflict of interests. Our attorney that's assisting us with all of this is Michael Roth from Ice Miller. The extent, the gist of the threat of litigation is a 2007 intergovernmental agreement that was signed by the village, District 135 and 230. So in 2007, I mentioned earlier, the TIF was established in 2004. The village was proposing some changes to the boundaries. And at that time, the village agreed with 135 and 230 to execute this IGA. The challenge with the IGA is Michael Roth, the attorney from Ice Miller. Ice Miller is a very well-established law firm, especially in this field, is that the terms of the IGA are not legal. It would go against the Illinois TIF Act to do what's in the TIF district. And essentially, what the IGA calls for is prioritizing distribution of funds from the TIF district to the two school districts. You can't do that because it has to be equally apportioned amongst all of them. But the more important thing is it's when there's surplus. And as we have shown already, there is no surplus. We're in a heavy deficit in the TIF districts. So there is no surplus to actually distribute. So, and I mentioned kind of the school enrollment here. We are always going to follow state law. We're not going to, potentially put ourselves into legal issues by not following the Illinois TIF Act. And so this threat of litigation is actually kind of mind-boggling because Mr. Roth did a very good job, and a copy of his opinion is included with the Registar item, and the school districts have had this for a long time. All this does is it hurts our mutual constituents, mutual residents. Two districts or two taxing bodies are suing each other, and it's pretty clear that we're going to win this. It's kind of almost a black and white issue here. There's really not anything to, as far as the law is pretty clear. The IGA was put into place, but the IGA was just simply a bad document. And that's what the threat of litigation is right now.
Mr. Mayor?
Just under.
I would also, I read the opinion, I agree with what he says in there, that this was in 2007, 17 years ago. Material change in circumstances is something that you can use when someone brings a contract, dispute against you. There are material changes in circumstances in that contract. It is another, think of what's happened in 17 years with the development itself. How many times? I can see exactly what was happening. So they passed this in 2004. The same board is there, better than me in 2007, right?
Pretty much.
And they're realizing, okay, we've got a problem here. So then they go to their, to the school district at the time and enter some, I'll stop there. I think it's obvious what was happening.
They got bad legal advice. Both the district and the village got bad legal advice and entered into an agreement that was illegal. And oh, by the way, it has nothing to do with this board. It has nothing to do with this village manager. It has nothing to do with the school boards or the existing superintendents at the schools. All different people.
Yeah, we simply can't follow, we cannot execute the terms of the IGA because they contradict state law. It's just that simple.
And even if they didn't, it says to share a surplus. How much are we going to be in the hole, Kevin?
Well over 23 million.
Trustee Healy.
I gotta get this, the school districts went down on average 10% in students. I'm pretty sure my tax bill didn't go down 10% for what we pay there. What are they doing with all the money? You can't answer that, George, but I mean, do they stand up to the teachers union? Do they do anything? I know they keep building additions and additions for a lot fewer and fewer students. I don't know, maybe I've got a disconnect. I would expect with enrollment to go down a significant amount, my taxes should be lower. But as I recall, they've gone up year after year after year. Teachers' salaries keep going up year after year after year. Does anybody stand up to these people and say, stop it? It's a waste of money. It's, there's a lot of retired people in Orland Park, and it's on their backs that a lot of this is being funded. It's just doesn't seem fair to this old country. Thanks.
George, who contacted the village with this threat?
I mentioned earlier, their attorney sent the threat of litigation as well as a draft complaint to KTJ.
And did they indicate whether they were authorized to do that, or the board authorized them to do that?
After we got the threat, and what I asked Mr. Roth to do was this: set up a meeting between the village and the two school districts and the attorneys, so that we can see if there's any way we can come to some type of agreement here. Because obviously, I mentioned the only people that can harm the two taxing bodies suing each other are the taxpayers.
And mind you, we're not suing them, we're just gonna defend it.
Right. And so I don't know exactly how it all kind of broke out, like, when it was authorized.
So I'm just there's some obvious alternatives here. So either the board approved it, district, I do know, the District 230 tabled it. We have a 230 member here, we talked about it, and in full disclosure, they tabled it, so they did not authorize it. So District 135 may have approved it. They could have done it in executive session in secret. Dennis is allowed to approve a lawsuit and move forward with litigation in executive session. This is an open meetings act question.
You can give direction in executive session to.
Okay. And then they may have approved it after the executive session, but we checked the video, and after they left executive session, the video didn't come back on. So we don't know. So they might have approved it in secret in executive session. They might have approved it in public, but not on video, so none of us know. We won't know until the minutes come out, which is after the next board meeting. They may not have approved it, and the attorney and superintendent and maybe the board president are acting on their own. We know that some of that stuff has happened, like with the attack on the chief, with the Christmas, canceling Christmas and those things, which to me is also problematic, why the board doesn't hold them accountable for these things. But it's one of those three things that happen. So, all of which are bad, in my opinion. Does anybody have any other questions on this? I mean, it looks like enrollment's going down, and they're asking us to do something that violates the law.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Healy.
I've got a comment that since I've been here, I've witnessed, you put a lot of effort into promoting this, taking this albatross and just trying to, turning it into something positive, which I think we're on the road to. But the staff has put in a lot of work and all that. And it reminds me of that saying about auditors, that after the battle is lost, they come in and stab the wounded. I mean, you guys have done such a, this lawsuit seems reckless, foolish, and why would they threaten that? If they're not serious. So it's just another waste of money, of my tax money. That's all I can think it is. That's it.
Trustee Hastings.
Mr. Mayor, I was just going to say, looking over the information, it appears as though they want to sue the village for $163,677.
So it's 800,000,
But
163 a year.
Yeah, correct, for this year.
800,000 plus the future.
7 years of that, right? 7 years of that. But again, you went back to where the TIF didn't make any money. It's a negative 23 million. So how is that number figured? Is it some line, in section 4.1 of the contract that they signed that said we agree to pay them X with no reference to, how the TIF is doing at the time?
I think there's two elements to it. One is, in the IGA, there was a dollar amount that was to be distributed per the IGA to the two school districts. But according to the law, we can't do that. It's just, we can't do that. The other element is the per student reimbursement formula. Now, since the TIF has been established, there's a process that has to be followed per the TIF law on how to get that student reimbursement. And that's an annual requirement, and they have not asked for that. But on the flip side, even if they asked, as we see here, enrollment has been down. So that the TIF Act indicates that it's about, if the student enrollment increases, this per student reimbursement formula kicks in. And as you can see here, that's just not the case, which may be why we weren't getting that reimbursement request.
Understood. Thank you, George. Good explanation.
Are there any other comments? So I'm going to kind of summarize all of this. I understand that the school boards are frustrated with the TIF. Aren't we all? Trust me, it's a $27.5 million, more than that, more than $30 million worth of frustration for us. Because we've been left holding, the board here and our staff has been left holding the bag, and it's impacting everything. In the end, it was the prior administration, particularly the mayor and the mayor pro tem, that basically they screwed the village, the school district, and the other taxing bodies, and the residents with an ill-conceived fiasco. They basically, if you just put it all in a nutshell, they tried to play real estate speculator with taxpayer money. And it was over $100 million of taxpayer money that they put in there that we could have used to fund all of our capital. And we wouldn't be in the position. We wouldn't even have to spend 100 because we've been able to keep up with it. We wouldn't be behind like we are. So, but then the school board comes to us with a threat. Nobody on this board is happy with the school district making this threat. Their behavior through all of this has been a disservice to the residents, in my opinion. Now they resort to a threat of a lawsuit that asks the courts to force us to do something that in fact violates the law. That makes a lot of sense. In your wildest dreams, you can't make up something that's asinine. As a mayor and having sat here, it never ceases to amaze me that individuals and groups try to bully and or threaten this board and me, and thinking somehow that's going to work. Have we not demonstrated time and again that that's not going to happen? My 7 years as mayor and collectively 24 years on the board, the tactic for these trustees, that tactic has never worked. We as a board, we don't play games, we don't bluff. We're honest and direct and try to find solutions that work in the best interest of the residents and businesses of Orland Park. And I think we did this time and again in this case. As mad as we are, and believe me, if the school boards decide to sue, Chief, how much money for District 135 do we cover for crossing guards?
We have over $5,500 that we have crossing guards and CSOs there, and we cover about $75,000 a year.
So we cover about 75,000, they cover a little over 30.
Correct.
And, same thing for District 230, they cover a little higher percentage of the school resource officer, but also there's traffic control and traffic and all this stuff that we cover as the village, okay? If we're sued and we have to spend legal fees, we're going to find a way to recoup those from the school districts. There's just no way around that. I don't want to go there. I think that's silly, I think it's foolish. I hope that they decide better. So I think what we should do as a board, and for what is best for the residents of Orland Park, even if District 135 board members want to act politically, they want to act against residents' interests, fine, whatever. I still recommend that we make one last attempt to present an offer to District 135 and District 230. Obviously, you saw the numbers, it's going to have much more of an impact to D135 than 230, but they seem to be the ones driving this. But it's essentially the same offer we've been extending for approximately the last, really, 3 years. The village will collect impact fees, the ones that are allowed by law. We're not going to charge an administration fee, we'll collect that for the school districts. We'll renovate the fields behind High Point Orland Junior High for the proposed plan. It's still in the budget, correct? Still in our capital plan. Because we're hoping they will come to their senses. If District 135 wants to upgrade these fields to turf, then they can do so at their cost, but we'll still manage the project. The village will continue to engineer the access to the west of our school, acquire and transfer the necessary right-of-way at no cost to the school. The village will also enter into an IGA that will reimburse the districts for students as required by the Illinois TIF Act for the new downtown TIF and other potential TIFs, including the ones that we've got escrows for, 159th Street in LaGrange, the old Anthony property, 143rd Street in John Humphrey, and potentially Orland Square. In exchange for this, however, the districts need to comply with the legal requirements for impact fee collection. They can't keep information from us. I think that's what they have done, and we're holding it in escrow, correct, because we don't have an IGA.
No, I think we have the information, we've never had a
We need the IGA,
Yeah.
and so then, in the meantime, it's in an escrow. The village and the District 135 will enter into a 25-year field usage agreement that mirrors the current agreement. Doesn't seem to be a lot to ask for $3.1 million that we're going to spend on fields. The districts will agree not to contest the changed TIF boundaries for the downtown triangle. They'll agree to an IGA supporting the new downtown triangle TIF and agree to an IGA supporting the other potential TIFs. Now, mind you, all that's doing, they could try and stop those TIFs, but they can't, they're not going to stop them. All they can do is delay them. So really, I mean, that's really not asking much. And then the districts drop all claims regarding the 2007 IGA, which we all know now from Mike Miller, requires the law to be violated, so they won't pay anything. So these are not big asks. And we're giving a significant amount from the impact fee collection. And we're not going to change what we're doing as far as supporting you with our police department and everything else. And if for some reason the District 135 doesn't want to upgrade the fields, the correlated portion can be taken out of the agreement. I think that's silly. I don't know why you would want to do that, but so be it. But to be clear to the staff, this is not a negotiation. We're done with the negotiation. This is a final offer from the village. And it represents at least $3.6 million in benefits to District 135, plus more with all the policing and everything else. Because I promise you, if they sue, all that stuff goes out the window. All the support we're giving goes out the window because we're going to have to recover our costs. I suggest we offer this, we extend this offer to the end of April. They both will have board meetings in that time and can make that decision. It's not like this is anything new. There's no new information here. And after that time, we'll assume that districts are not interested, even if they don't answer. In the meantime, the village will continue to move forward with changes to the downtown and triangle TIFs to keep the process moving. That's what I suggest that we offer. Is there anyone on the board that has anything to add to that or any comments to that? So I would like to give that direction to staff. All in favor of extending this offer to District 135 and District 230 signify by saying aye. 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 All opposed by saying no. So 7-0 unanimous for you to pursue this. And hopefully we can get it done and you know, what is good for all the residents actually gets done by the school boards. And, you know, and again, the other two school boards don't both have to necessarily agree, right? One could agree and one could not. They don't have to go at this unilaterally. So we're aware of that. So I hope they come to their senses because I think this is reasonable. It's fair. It has been fair. It's been fair since 2021. And It's unfortunate that they didn't take advantage of the offer that we gave them in 2021 and 2022, because there would have been a couple $1 million to each. But you saw the numbers. We can't do it anymore with bond prices increasing and costs increasing. It's not feasible.
And that 4.3, that's not even an option anymore. TIF has a fixed term. There's only a few years left, so we're probably about half that if we were to, so that's gone. That money's never gonna come back.
Yeah, and we needed to, as it is, we're still gonna be 23 million at home, so we're not offering that anymore. We offered that good faith for a long time, and we offered it good faith even after we saw that it was not in our interest, and we were basically rebuffed. So at this point, that's off the table. Okay, so you have your marching orders, and let's hope that, and please turn that around relatively quickly. I know the District 230 has a special board meeting on April 9th. I know the District 135 has a board meeting coming up. And please, send it to their attorney, but also CC their boards with that information as well.
Understood.
And if you want, you can even link them to this discussion.
Well, with our new Legstar link on video, we can do that.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have a little different video system today. A $50 part set our video system down, and we couldn't get the part replaced in time. So we went back to not completely old school, but back a little bit in technology to get this done.
No school like old school.
But Vince is doing a good job at that.
Non-scheduled citizens and visitors for public comment on items relevant to village business.
Is there anybody here to speak?
Board comments.
Board comments, trustee comments.
So to all those that will celebrate Lilac Al-Qad on Friday, Ramadan Mubarak. To those like me that celebrated yesterday, I hope you had a very happy Easter and a great start to your season of renewal and joy. For those celebrating next Sunday, I hope you have a very blessed Holy Week. To everyone, I hope you have a great and joyful rest of the week. Thank you.
Trustee Esines.
Real quick, after all this talk about TIFs, just my ears are exploding there. There's a lot of events coming up in the summer. Check out the village website. Also check out Facebook with the concert series with Taste of Orland, with Market in the Park, all at our new venue. So mark your calendars. There's a lot of things being put out there, thanks to our PR department. Thanks.
Thank you. I have a little different view on my taxes and schools than Trustee Healy does. I still have kids in the school district. I have a lot of family members that are teachers. They work very, very hard. There's some great teachers out there. I've had the battle with my brothers who are superintendents, my father who is superintendent, about taxes and about how they spend their money for, I'm 53 next week, so 50 years probably since I was 2 or 3 years old. But I do think that the village and the school district need to work hand in hand. We need to share information. We need to work together. The best towns, the best school districts have towns that support them, and the best towns have school districts that do very well. It helps value our homes. It helps the crime that we have good schools. And we have people who care at both districts, 230 and 135. So this is an anomaly to me. I hope, I think it is. I'm not understanding their position. They came to us with their letter in response to all of our points. I think we would take it seriously, and we would counter it with, what the law says to do or what's best for the village. So I want to be clear that my kids have gone through 135. I have 2 at 230, and there are some really, really hardworking, dedicated people there. And so just because our taxes have gone up doesn't mean it's, that the schools, and even just because enrollment declines, and we've been talking about how things cost a heck of a lot more. I'm just going to get roasted when I get home, that's why I got to say something. But I do believe that. I'm being honest. I think, the cost to run a school is a heck of a lot more than it was 20 years ago for a lot of reasons. And, a lot of it is the teachers' union. I've had that discussion with them as well. And I fight with them all the time about it. But there are a lot of good teachers out there. So have a good week.
Trustee Healy.
I'd like to remind everybody that April 15th, you have to file your tax return. And I think these next 2 weeks should be declared, be kind to your accountant, please. If you've waited this long, what's wrong with you? I mean, you don't deserve to whine about taxes at this point, so. Be kind, most accounts are under a lot of stress, some of them have given up already. So. But no, I would say there's a lot of bad news there's a lot of bad things out there in the news. You've got the grocery tax dispute, you've got a lot of the Mideast is still, looks like its worst days are ahead. There's a lot of bad things, reckless lawsuits locally, there's crime and everything keeps going on, but there is still good that happens in the world, and I think you've got to find it every day. I'm trying to find something good every day before you call it a night, to try and find something to pick your spirits up and be willing to go out there and fight today. So just try and read the newspaper or read to find something good about something, and just don't overlook it. Thanks.
Trustee Rashevsky.
Happy Easter to all those who observe. And George, thank you for, facilitating and helping with the school boards. And we have great schools here in Orland Park, and it's a shame to, hear that they've lost millions of dollars and just kind of can't come to terms with things. And nobody benefits if this doesn't get resolved. And like was already mentioned, nothing from nothing is nothing. So let's try to, have a collaborative effort and, get it resolved, because everybody will benefit. And I also wanted to remind everybody about the cleanup week starting April 8th. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. To Trustee Healy's point, there's a lot of bad stuff going on. Some of you may have seen an update I sent out, some emails I got on Friday. Cook County basically trying to bribe communities to take in illegal migrants, as well as measles outbreak in those camps, and they're telling us all to beware about it. So this whole issue is a huge national health and public safety issue beyond finances, which we know are there as well. To both Trustee Healy and Trustee Reardon's points, I'm a product of School District 135, and it was fantastic for me and my brother and sister. It's one of the reasons we moved back here. It was fantastic for my kids. They're all doing well. But I don't change the fact of some of the things I said, that since my kids have been in school and since I've been, they're out of school now, and since I've been there, some of the decisions that have been made at the school board level have been I really question. And I call them out when I think it's bad for the village, because the village needs good schools. And we could do everything we want right here. If we have bad schools, it won't matter. We need good schools. And when we canceled Christmas, that was a big deal, which is why I brought it to attention, and we got that corrected. I spoke early in my tenure. I spoke at School District 135 for both band and for the honors programs to keep those intact. Unfortunately, they did, because to me, it was that important. It's very important. Our schools are very important. On the funding side of things, I think one thing that Bill, you should understand, and once I explain it, you will, is that the school, according to the Constitution, Illinois is supposed to fund 50% of the schools, half. They're supposed to fund the majority, so 50.001 they should be funding. Okay? They fund 27%. District 230 gets, I talked to our clerk, and he says 6%. Somewhere between 6 and 8% of their funding comes from Illinois. Can you imagine if they got 42% more? They could keep your taxes low. So when you hear the governor talking about how municipalities and school districts keep ramping up property taxes because we don't efficiently spend our money, it's because the state keeps ripping us off. The state budget has gone from in the mid-30s to the high 50s since I've been mayor, since the current governor has been governor, so that's shorter than since I've been mayor. That's in 5 years. They spend like drunken sailors. And where do they take the money? They take the money, you saw it with LGDF, you see it with the grocery tax that they're doing, you see it with the unfunded mandates that we talk about that they're doing with the IEPA, you see it, and the school districts deal with unfunded mandates as well. So it is the state of Illinois that is crushing your property taxes. That's what's crushing it. Okay? Do I think there's some things the schools could do, and sure, there probably are. But at the end of the day, we would be having a discussion that the state was well run and they were funding us the way they should, and they do not. They shift the money that comes to Orland Park, and they shift it to other communities that spend 50% more per child on their schools, and they have no one in their entire school that can pass the state test to grade level. No one. It's absurd. So, and believe me, I am constantly, despite what the school board members may think, I'm constantly fighting as part of the mayor's caucuses to push back on these things because the mayors do have impact on us. And we push back, not just on the unfunded mandates for us, but also for schools. We're constantly pushing back on that. So, so that, that's just something that we all deal with and we're all trying to handle. The good news though is here in Orland Park at least, we're able to overcome a lot of this because of what a great community we have. I mean, whether you have Peach Fresh Market come in or Stein House, or we recently had Silver Cross come in, at Seasons 52 coming forward with Chow. We have all of these developments coming. You saw the other tips we were talking about. Those are all active projects where people are looking to do stuff in Orland Park. So that's all fantastic. You're seeing, a fairly large residential development that is like 80% already sold and it's not even built yet. So all those things are positives for the village of Orland Park. So there's a lot of positives happening here. Hope everyone enjoyed the egg hunt that we had. The eggs went in very quickly again, except for the toddler field. Every other field is gone in like 2 minutes. They're gone. So hope everyone, it was a little cold again, but at least this time it wasn't raining. So that was good. So I hope everyone enjoyed that. There's a lot of great events coming up. I am particularly excited. We've announced 2 of our concerts. So we announced our second and third concerts. I know that's pushed up. Well, we don't know the first one yet. Well, unfortunately, contracts are what they are with artists, and sometimes it takes a while to get them signed. And we had to announce the second concert, Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo. We had to announce them because they were announcing their whole tour. So, because they were announcing their whole tour, we had to announce them. And then we followed that up with Mark Martell, and that's going to be also a Billy Joel cover band and a Bruce Springsteen cover band. But Mark Martell was here a few years ago and was fantastic, so I think that'll be a great show. And I know who our first artist is. I believe that's going to be announced this week, right, Greg? We hope. We hope we have signed contract and we can announce that this week, and then you'll have all 3 of the concerts. And I'm confident that first concert is going to be a great one. And for those who haven't been out to Centennial Park West, it's moving along quite well. And when are we looking at getting the turf? Next couple weeks?
Yeah, they're putting the irrigation system in now.
But 2 weeks for turf there, and then also turf at Shusha Park too in the next couple weeks, right?
Starting fine grading right now, and then turf should follow shortly after, just depends on the weather.
So hopefully by mid-April, we'll have turf on both fields, and it's looking fantastic. So it should be a great summer here, and thanks again to the staff for all they do, and for the board for all that they do, and I'm really looking forward to the summer, with the weather turning, getting out on the golf course, and getting out and enjoying the new venue that we have for both for our Centennial Park West concerts and our Taste of Orland, which those announcements will also be forthcoming. That I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session. Mr. Chairman. Trustee Thomas.
I move to go into executive session for a discussion of the minutes of closed meetings, B, pending litigation against, affecting, or on behalf of the village, or when found by the board that such action is probable or imminent.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon. Aye. Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. Executive session. board meeting, call roll.
Trustee Ely. Here. Trustee Katsinas.
Here.
Trustee Malani. Trustee Compass.
Here.
Trustee Reardon.
Here.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Here.
Mayor Pico.
Here.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Thomas.
I move to approve the settlement agreement between the Village of Orland Park and Paul Shea for the personal injury claim. Authorize the village manager to execute a settlement agreement subject to village attorney review.
Second.
Call roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Ely.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Thomas.
I move to adjourn the Board of Trustees meeting.
Second.
Call roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Ely.
Aye.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. Adjourned.